One day when I was 7 years old, I was playing in the backyard. I was planting some sunflower seeds in a mound of dirt in the humble hope of growing a sunflower. I learned two things when my mom interrupted my botanical experiment. I learned that we were going to America, and I learned what condescending was. She said, planting seeds in a bag of guinea pig feed wasn't gonna work. Was she calling Sesame Street a liar? When my family and I immigrated to the States from the UK, I didn't really know what to expect. I don't think my parents knew either. More of that in a bit. My crudest childhood imageries told me that I would be skateboarding everywhere, I would probably befriend an alien in between spacecraft upsets, and I was going to have to pick an NFL team to get behind. 25 years later, and all of those things have yet to occur. I said goodbye to my guinea pigs, and more importantly, I said goodbye to my best friend, my neighbor, Ryan. He didn't come over to say goodbye with his mom, so it was up to me to go to his house. I thought it was because every time he came over, my dad would torment him, tickle him till he pissed himself, just so he could give him the nickname Crying Ryan. Well, Ryan wasn't scared, he was sick. So sick that I was not supposed to go over there. More on that in another bit. Before we decided to move over indefinitely, we spent a few months in California. My dad rented a car to take us from the airport to the Renaissance Inn where we'd be staying. The drive was a hot one and confusing for my folks. They couldn't understand how anyone could be used to the heat to such a degree that they were driving around with their windows up. Cars in the UK didn't traditionally come with AC, so it wasn't on. We were cruising through the city in the sweltering summer sun with all the windows down. Despite this discomfort, I was fascinated by everything I saw. California in the 80s was such a change from Scotland in the 80s. I spied restaurants that were open 24 hours. That's all day. Even a 7-year-old Scottish kid with a strict bedtime knew that was a big deal. Who ever heard of such a thing? We arrived in the Renaissance Inn, we settled in, and we all took naps. When we woke up, it was late and we were hungry. Despite my initial insistence that we were 24-hour eateries in this exotic locale we found ourselves, my folks did not want to venture out. All we had was next to nothing. And what lies next to nothing, you might ask? A bag of microwave popcorn for 4 people to split a bag, hoping that it would last us until the morning. In our strife, we pioneered first world immigration problems. Side note, no one wants to hear a 7-year-old gloat about how he was right about the 24-hour restaurant industries. My parents labeled that cheeky. It was the air conditioning fiasco all over again. Thankfully, they figured out both ACs and food options, so our family version of the Oregon Trail wasn't going to kill us. See, I told you they didn't know what to expect. I was still without a skateboard, an alien pal, and considering the Miami Dolphins solely based on liking dolphins at the time. I don't really remember too terribly much else about that trip. I was debilitated with the mumps during that time. Turns out that what my friend Crying Ryan had contracted, and now I had it too. Not only did I have it, but I had it on a long plane ride. It was manageable for me because I was so young at the time, but I'm sure must have been patient zero to a plane full of people. Also, why the hell wasn't I vaccinated against that? I was suffering from pains of my gland, both north and south, swelling up, a crazy nonsensical dream. I thought giant mounds interrupting bubble up from a graph paper-looking grid under a technicolor sky were going to swallow me up like the orb from the prisoner. That's what mumps were. During my more lucid moments, as I was in between the absurd dream inspired by Tron and lava lamps and being awake, the local PBS station was hosting a telethon, was running several monster movies. While I lied there in a confused, dying state, my father would tell me that zombies were going to come after me. "They're going to kill you, Ryan," he would say creepily. I soon got over my fear of months. It took me even longer to get over my fear of zombies. America was pretty wild so far. After I was well enough, we managed to take in some sights. We went to Disneyland, the San Diego Zoo. We even went to a drive-in movie, a movie that you could watch in your car. America had it all. My folks took us to see Roger Rabbit. I thought the experience was so awesome that I asked if we could go again. And sure enough, my dad took me back to watch Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. What the hell is wrong with these people? Eventually, we did decide to live in America, but instead of sunny California, we made home in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Right? My accent was bullied out of me by Baptist rednecks who didn't much care for my higher vocabulary and my prolificity to say things like coin purse. Eventually, we did. I'm sorry, I already read that line. In hindsight, I may have been asking for it. Now, before we left Tulsa, before the degrading and the humiliation, before the constant shuffling around, making friends, abandoning them for the next place, way before Houston, before knowing and fully realizing the sensation of love struck, heartache, triumph, failure, what these sensations are worth, and how they assemble you into identity, before all that, I remember the intern time back in the UK, between California and Oklahoma. We came back home. I was instantly reminded of something. I ran out to the back door and gazed up the fence. There it was, a dead sunflower. And in the backyard, I learned two more things. The first was that this plant had lived out its entire life during the time I was away and went from seed to corpse in such a short span, and I wasn't around to enjoy it. I couldn't really quantify it at the time. I knew the concepts of life and death, but I didn't really understand the weight of them. I could apply a sort of lesson here, some meaning or metaphor about the sunflower that bloomed while I was being tortured in a faraway land, but I won't. Sometimes things just happen. The second thing I learned, I was fucking right. It totally fucking worked. My folks may have been torturous assholes, but they didn't understand things like ACs, Denny's, and sunflowers.